Good evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus. My name is Faraz Patel on this July the 21st, 2025. Yesterday, Israeli forces killed at least 115 Palestinians across Gaza, including 92 people who were shot dead while trying to get food at the Zikam crossing in the north and 8 points in Rafah and Khan Yunis in the south. The killings came as Israel's continued siege of Gaza worsened a hunger crisis, with health authorities announcing that at least 19 deaths have occurred from starvation over the past day. There are trucks waiting. Let's not get this wrong. They are waiting at the border. But Tel Aviv finds it necessary in their eyes to go ahead and close down any entry point to allow for that aid to occur. Joining me now from Gaza City, I'd like to welcome Amjad Shawa, who's the director of the Palestinian non-governmental organization in Gaza. Amjad, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and shukran for joining us in this very difficult time right now for the people in the enclave.
Thank you. Yes, it's the worst ever, never humanitarian situation that any other country could witness, by such complicated catastrophe that we are passing through. The daily intensive airstrikes. Today, just my neighborhood here, there was an airstrike over kindergarten where was about 100 children. Part of them were injured. And in my neighborhood also, there was an attack in one of the apartments. 5 people were killed. Today, till now, there is about more than 80 people were killed. This is by the Israeli airstrikes. And in the last 24 hours, there was 19 people died because of the famine and the starvation. Israel, for more than 150 days, denied entry of all aid items to Gaza. Just imagine how people can survive. In the last 3 days, everything ran out. There is nothing. People are, they are keeping alive by salt and water. You can imagine that infants, instead of giving them milk, they are receiving some salt and water to keep them alive. There is no milk powder and there is no breastfeeding for the infants. These crimes, while all the world are witnessing such genocide against the Palestinians, yes, we are receiving some statements, some positions, some concern from here and there, but till now we have no action from the international community in order to stop these attacks, to open the crossings. Yesterday, the aid seekers, these starved people, went to Zikim to wait for the aid trucks. While they're waiting, the Israelis started shooting towards them, killed more than 95 people, only in Zikim. And there is about 350 were injured. This is in order to get some flour, to go back to your home, to your tent, for your malnutrition children, to get them some bread. This is the main meal for few months that we have. We are not asked for more than that. But also they were killed. Also on the other part, in the south, these GHF or so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation points, military points, also a number were killed and injured. It's a daily incidents by the Israeli occupational forces. And also this morning, no more water. Very limited amount of water for drink and daily use. Very, very limited. The pipelines, it's nothing. Israel destroyed 85% of the water infrastructure. There is no fuel to pump the water. And also the main line that we have for this limited amount destroyed by the Israelis. So people are starved, thirsts, and in the same time displaced 93% of the population are displaced, in about 13% of the Gaza Strip. In 50 kilometers, we have 2.2 million. There is no tents to provide the people here.
Amjad, I've seen images, and of course you probably either see the images through your phone or you are there watching it, when the malnourishment of many children, especially children, that is occurring. That is, I think, beyond what anyone would have thought would have occurred. And the frustrating part in all of this is that the aid is waiting at these borders, whether it's in Rafah or, of course, on the Israeli side of it. There is aid that is waiting. I mean, I've seen images of many Jewish settlers going ahead and taking the aid and actually throwing it on the floor. And that, I think, should add to that frustration and disappointment. I would like to think disappointment, given that nothing's being done from the international world to go ahead and say, well, why? Why can't this happen? Meanwhile, GHF operates, but they have food on one hand and, of course, a weapon on the other.
That's right. That if there was accountability, if there is kind of actions from the international community from day one, we couldn't reach this point. But the international community failed the Gaza Strip children. You know that well, that 70% of the people who were killed were children and women. Israel is systematically targeting the Gaza children by all means, by such denial the food, medicine, and the basic needs to the Gazans. Also hygiene. You can imagine Gaza with no hygiene supplies here, and we have no water. So the thing that Israel is doing to impose diseases on these weak bodies of these children, which you can touch their bones. I'm the end. Yes, I'm humanitarian actor, but I'm a human being. I have children. They could see this. We are I have this luck that I manage to get one meal a day, sometimes rice or some bread here and there. But others, the majority cannot. But my children cannot survive by only some bread or some rice. They need egg, they need meat, they need everything. And first of all, they need protection. You know that they are suffocated, they are traumatized day by night. I went to this kindergarten when it was attacked. I could see the faces of the children. They're scared to death. So the case here that we need this pressure, real pressure from the international community. I know well that the international community, who is double standards, all the tens of years of the Palestinian case, this is the real time not to save the Palestinians, to save the international law, to save the international humanitarian law. What's happening in Gaza will be copied in other contexts.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Amjad Shawa, coming to us from Gaza City, of course, discussing the famine that is ongoing there. Do stay tuned. We'll have more for you after this break. Welcome back. I'm still in conversation with Amjad Shawa, who is the director of the Palestinian non-governmental organizations in Gaza. Amjad, shukran again for staying with us. I think what makes this worse is when you listen to the far right of the Israeli government, the likes of Weiss, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, who are, quite frankly, calling for this ethnic cleansing. It's not quotations that are being misdirected. It's not fake news. They're saying this directly to the media. I mean, I heard that very same voice last week on the Piers Morgan show, where she's practically saying, hey, this belongs to us. We, the Zionists are going to take this land. And that in itself is pure, not just terrorism from their side, but the fact that they can speak so with this impunity just shows that there is no real accountability, isn't it? And the international community just sits back and really doesn't do much to try and help the situation right now.
What's going on? It's shame on the humanity, the international community. What's going on? It's new evidence that these double standards, when it's another other context in the world, how much the international community is working, mainly the EU. You know, there are more efforts and they are asking for accountability, application of the international law and things. But in Gaza, they kept silent for a while, and then when they came out with weak statements and with no actions. While our people are slaughtered, also these statements by Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and Netanyahu himself, and they open their air for the Netanyahu airplane in order to move in violation to the request of the International Court of Justice. This is what's happening. Really, this is something that touched us as a human being, who are part of this world. Smotrich and Ben-Gvir consider us as animals. We don't deserve any food, and we have to die. And it's clearly mentioned. So it's urgently now in order to act to save the lives and to save also the principles of human rights.
Amjad, on Saturday, or I think Friday late, Abu Ubaidah, of course, the leader of the Al-Qassam Brigade, had said that they're ready to release practically every captive that was, of course, taken on October the 7th, 2023. One of the demands is obviously to have Israel, of course, completely remove itself as a military force in Gaza, number one, and of course, number two, the aid that needs to come in. You've mentioned Benjamin Netanyahu, and it's quite clear he couldn't really care about it. He needs this war to go ahead and, of course, save his political career, which is in turmoil right now, given the fraud and corruption charges he faces. Is that the feeling that the Gazans are having right now, that this is not going to happen because it's clear Netanyahu wants this genocide to continue in order to go ahead and save himself?
And part of it also, this right-wing government, this extremist government, want also to have de facto on the ground to decrease Gaza geography and demography, to kill more and to occupy Gaza and to deport the Palestinians. This is their plan. So this is kind of intentionally what's going on in Gaza. And in Gaza, I could see, for example, they erased Rafah from the existence, the buildings, everything. The north, the east part of Gaza. Gaza is under destruction too. Also killing. Every day we're losing 100 by the airstrikes, but at the same time, by diseases, by sickness, by everything, by denial access to health. So this is something that have to be considered, not only the interest of Netanyahu, but the interest of this extremist government in order to end the Palestinian issue and our national project.
And of course, the hospitals. I mean, Nasser Hospital's basically on its last breath, as one would say, given just how much bombing Israel has conducted over these medical facilities. And that's another point of concern, isn't it? The fact that Nasser Hospital, which is one of the largest hospitals in the entire enclave, is practically surviving on the bare minimum right now.
Yes, it's all the hospitals in Gaza, they are working in the minimal level to save the lives as a priority for the Palestinians. And to tell you that we have 14,000 patients injured who need for urgent medvac to outside Gaza Strip. And I'm calling on all actors in order to receive our patients, our injured people, to save their lives. This is A, and B, in order to send medical teams to Gaza Strip to help the doctors and physicians and nurses who are working for 2 months with no rest. And we need the professional doctors in the malnutrition, as well as to enter medicine. The 70 to 80% of the medicine items, it's zero in the stock of the Ministry of Health and the other health providers. Also that we have shortage of fuel to run the generators, electricity generators in the hospitals. And we have concerns already 2-3 hospitals run out of fuel and they will stop working soon. So it's an issue and big issue that hospitals will stop, which means more death for the patients and for the injured people who are critically injured, and we have hundreds of them.
Amjad, one final question, because I know it's been a very long day for you. What would it take? I mean, you and I are having this conversation, and we'd hope, inshallah, that it would allow for there to be a notice from the world. It's not just this conversation. There are journalists out there using their phones to make these discussions. There are civil society people like Dr. Francesca Albanese who have come out and spoken. There have been people, I mean, last week the New York Times, and it's taken close to 2 years for them to actually admit that there's a genocide happening in Gaza. But where do we stand in terms of the international community? You've mentioned action, because there have been talks. But do you, as a resident of Gaza, believe that this action is going to take place? South Africa, of course, brought the ICJ case last year, and yet Israel flat out refuses to acknowledge international law. What will it take, Amjad, as I speak to you right now, July the 21st, for this to stop, for the starvation to stop, for the bombings of the hospitals to stop, for the bombings of practically everywhere to go ahead and say enough is enough?
Yes, enough is enough. It's a long time ago we're saying enough is enough. The killing of civilians, this starvation, this kind of thirst, this kind of genocide, these crimes against the humanity, this ethnic cleansing that committed by Israel against the Palestinians. And I'd rely on our people who are steadfast and refuse in order to be deported from our land. And we rely on friends and brothers all over the world who have their voice. And we rely on the people of these countries who are coming out in demonstrations and strong campaigns against these Israeli war criminals. And we hope that one day will come to get justice to these children, to these women, to these elders, and to get Israel accountable towards all these crimes. We will not give up hope.
Amjad, a pleasure having you on. We make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep you safe, to keep everyone in Gaza safe. All we could do is make dua and, of course, have these conversations so that many people know firsthand what is happening in the genocide area, which is Gaza. Do look after yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you.
That's Amjad Shawa, director of the Palestinian non-governmental organizations in Gaza. As a broadcaster, it sometimes you lose the ability to actually mention the words. There are no more words to mention when it comes to Gaza at this moment. They just need the aid. It's that simple. But unfortunately, when you have an Israeli government influenced heavily by the right wing, and Netanyahu himself needs to take responsibility for this. The fact that he is listening to the right wing, he's allowing himself to be not just influenced, but complicit in every way possible. The fact that they are stopping the aid from coming in, that just speaks volumes. the world's starting to understand that this genocide is being taken to a level we've never seen in the history of the Palestinian struggle against their own self-determination. And unfortunately, the world is just doing nothing to allow for this to stop. After the break, we're going to come back home. Fly Safe Air, they're not flying. Why is this happening? Well, the pilots want an increase of 10.5%. Is that going to happen? Well, we wait to see. I'll be speaking to Solidarity Union's Deputy Secretary General Helga Cronje after the break. Do stay tuned.